It is live. I think it's working. Oh my Lord, that's amazing. You know, I haven't done live shows, hosted live shows in a really long time, so this is very intimidating.
Well, at least you've got the experience in the past.
Yeah, a couple of times. Hangout was much less complicated back then.
Yeah.
So I should start AGR as well.
Yes.
I just press the DTNS2 button, and that's it. Happens like
yeah, it should
like
take you
magic,
to
right?
should take you to another page when you click on it with a button that says "Take me back to the control panel."
I
Correct?
am on the other page, and I'm returning to the control panel. So it should be live on both YouTube and Alpha Geek Radio. Hopefully it is. Chat room, hello. If you're watching or listening, if you can tell me if things are not working, that would be amazing, because I have no idea. Basically, I have no idea what I'm doing today. I'm just pressing buttons and hoping that it works. I'm doing what Roger tells me, basically. Oh, it looks and sounds great. Thank you.
Some of those stories are not.
And we have Erin with us today. We're going to talk a little bit about VR. You still have Chris in the description, though. Apparently, it was on the chat room.
I will.
Up. He has 5 minutes.
Well, yeah. Hold on. I guess I can edit. I will edit his name out.
All right. So now the big thing is Tom Merritt watching? He apparently is in the chat room. I'm very curious. Surely he's watching. His gaze is upon us, as you said, Roger.
Can't you feel it? Can't you feel it? He's just staring at you through the internet.
I was feeling a sort of warm glow here, roughly, on me. All systems good. Thank you, T2T2.
Awesome. Excellent. All right. So I think the other thing is just basically to start the recording right before the show starts. Right before you start the Patreon.
Yeah.
And
no problem.
I will.
That I can do. That I'm used to. It should work because I'm used to recording audio things. But you're recording as well, Roger, right? You're the backup.
I will be.
Okay.
As a backup. Let me take this out. Sorry. Well, why am I saying sorry to Chris? He hasn't shown up.
No, unless he's being really quiet. No AGR today? I should have started AGR. Is AGR not working? Strike It Rich is asking no AGR today.
No one. What is it called?
Because on my screen it says that DTNS2 is live.
It takes a while because it's scraping it from YouTube, so it will be a few seconds delayed.
Oh, T2T2 confirmed. It is up on number 2.
Yeah.
Says cool. T2T2. Yeah, Shane is saying it works for him too. So, all right, we should be good. All systems green. We are a go for the show in 3 minutes. Quick, Roger, tell a joke to entertain the chat room before we start.
Well, here's the joke. Tom says he's not watching; he's listening, which means he's either outside jogging on the treadmill, or perhaps soaking in his lavish hot tub, surrounded by rose-petaled water and scented candles.
Okay, if it's the hot tub, it's okay. But if he's running, I really hope I don't mess things up and give him like a panic or heart attack or something. Oh, yes, he says he's listening. Okay. All right. So many buttons to push.
I know. It's kind of like how the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain.
I'll tell you what, better you guys than me.
Tom is listening to AGR.
All right.
So,
And it is working then. Okay.
Let me mic. I'm going to mic off.
Okay.
So,
And yeah, it's 29, so we're going to start fairly soon. He did mic off. It's just us and the people watching. Oh, we have a count of viewers here. It's so sophisticated when you have the producer's console on Hangouts.
Right. A whole new world.
It's working a lot better than last time I tried it. It must have been a year or a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that's good.
It's pretty, yeah, it's still a little bit convoluted, but I still don't know how Hangouts fit in with YouTube Live, and creating a show is a headache if you want to do it through YouTube, but
Yeah, that's been interesting. There's a guy in the Tech Republic staff that's fairly into podcasting and stuff, so I've heard a little bit from him about some of the back workings of stuff.
all right, it is time for the show. So I guess we're going to start. I'm going to start recording and going to launch.
Breaking news. Apparently, the hot new trend among the cool kids is to support the Daily Tech News Show. Don't you want to be one of the cool kids? Give in to peer pressure today by visiting dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
Hello, everyone. This is the Daily Tech News Show for Tuesday, July 5th. 5th? Yes, 5th. July 4th is written on the notes, and I'm already all confused. I'm Patrick Beja, and if you're confused as well, it's because I'm not Tom Merritt. I'm filling in for Tom. He's my understanding from Roger, who's producing, is that he's either jogging or in his lavish bathtub. We'll go with neither of those. We don't know. So I'm Patrick Beja. I hope I'm going to do an okay job for the show today. If I'm not, please do let me know. But hopefully we will have Erin to make up for all of my mistakes. Erin Carson, a staff reporter at CNET, is here with me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm excellent. A tiny bit nervous, I have to admit. You know,
You'll be fine.
Hopefully. I didn't realize how much work Roger and Tom were doing until I've been trying to do the same thing today. So, we're going to talk about VR a little bit later in the discussion topic. Probably slightly different discussion than we've had about VR before. I know we've talked about VR quite a bit, but we want to go over the different headsets and which ones are good in which ways, and maybe which ones are better than others. Hopefully to do sort of a consumer review of these headsets. I don't think we've talked about the hardware quite as much as we could have, so we're going to do that. But before, we're going to go with the top stories. And for top stories, I'm going to do, again, something a little bit different. Usually Tom reads from pre-written details of each top story. I'm going to go with a little bit of a more casual way of detailing them. Again, if you don't think it works, if you think it's not as good as the pre-written read stories, please do let us know. That's how we improve the show. We try new things, and when they're not good, hopefully you tell us in a constructive manner. So yeah, first top story is new numbers from Snapchat usage, and basically the users of Snapchat are getting older. The new stats from ComScore are letting us know that 14% of smartphone users aged 35 and older, basically grandpas for Snapchat users are now using Snapchat. That's 14% when it was 2% back in April 2013. For the 25 to 34-year-olds, it's now 38%, and it was 5% in 2013. Thankfully, the youngsters are still using Snapchat more than anyone else. It's 69% of 18 to 24-year-olds, up from 24% again back in 2013. So basically, Snapchat is following in Facebook's footsteps and getting too old for the kids, I'm guessing. Are you using Snapchat, Erin?
Barely. Yeah, I think it's one of those things that when it first hit my radar, I was already a little bit out of the demographic. But it seems like any of these social media networks hit this point where they're embraced by like the kids and grow to such visibility that everybody wants to at least get some familiarity with them. And then when the parents join in, everyone's like, gotta go somewhere else.
Yeah, for sure. And apparently the My Stories feature has helped a lot with the growth of the platform, which is understandable because it's the one that makes the most sense to people who don't understand the weird world of Snapchat. I haven't really used it yet, but Tom is using it more and more, or maybe he stopped now, but he was using it. So when people like Tom and me, I even tried it, start using those things, it means it's time to desert the boat for the youngsters. The South China Morning Post is reporting on an interesting directive or instructions from the Cyberspace Administration of China. What they did is that they are now forbidding news and social networks from publishing unverified news. Now, I'll leave it to everyone to imagine what unverified news means in that context in China. But basically what they're saying is they don't want websites to be allowed to report public news without specifying the source. I guess that's reasonable. Or report news that quotes untrue origins, and that's the most interesting aspect of it. Some sites have already received warnings or been punished as part of this new initiative. But yeah, it's. I mean, we all know what China is like as about censorship. And the fact that they want the news sources to be verified in that way, or they don't want what was the exact quote, to report public news that quotes untrue origins. What does that even mean? I mean, it's China, but
yeah, it seems like there could be some room for interpretation to just crack down further on journalists. So
yeah, clearly. I mean. I think the definitely the interesting aspect of it is the social networking. I'm sure they're not going to start. They don't consider social networks as a whole with every user to be a news outlet, but maybe it could give them legal standing to police social networks even more than they already do. I don't know that that's possible, but they could. And also, one of the common themes we've seen in repressive regimes is the idea that social networks creates a way to propagate news, avoiding censorship when they are not entirely blocked. So with this, the controlled traditional outlets are not going to be allowed to report on what's happening on social networks, I think is the takeaway. So if there's a popular thing, a popular discussion, a popular revolt even that's happening on social networks, I'm guessing that's going to be even more difficult to report on it. So, Xbox head Phil Spencer has started talking about wheelchair avatars for Xbox Live. He's saying that they're not far off. Basically, we have avatars on Xbox Live, as we do on many different networks and gaming networks in particular. and they are usually there are no handicapped people in these avatars. One person suggested the idea that they could add wheelchair avatars, and they went ahead and did it. The article on Engadget includes a couple of pictures from that tweet, and yeah, they're avatars in wheelchairs. So that's super cool on one hand, and on the other hand, I'm sort of thinking, all right, we have wheelchairs now. Why don't we have other disabilities? Is that asking too much? But
you know, I think the thing with avatars is that they will, I guess, depending on who you ask, you know, kind of gain increasing importance as identities in virtual and online worlds sort of, you know, take more root. And for so many people, it's so important to see themselves represented in some manner, whether it's something like a disability or, you know, gender, race, whatever the case may be. So the idea that you know, they would be kind of expanding their efforts to make sure that more people just have the opportunity to see themselves in a world that they care about, right? I think it's a good thing.
yeah, yeah, it's definitely commendable. I just have my, you know, my contrarian brain going overtime and going like, yeah, but if there's, I don't know, an amputee, or actually that's probably the only thing I can think about. Maybe that wouldn't be so difficult to do, you know, but definitely a good thing on Xbox part. We have a document obtained by Recode that details the Sidewalk Labs public Wi-Fi kiosks. That's an Alphabet company. Basically, what they is giant ad display panels that also have a bunch of additional features. One of them is gigabit Wi-Fi, USB charging ports, and a bunch of things. But aside from that, one side of the story is the fact that they are ads kiosks. They're going to display. They have you know, LCD screens, and they're going to display ads, and it's going to cost different prices if you subscribe to the ad thing or not. And the cities are going to install them. But the really interesting thing for me is the amount of sensors that they have. Now, they don't have to be enabled, but if they can enable a bunch of sensors to monitor real-time street data, and those sensors include air pressure, humidity, temperatures, pollution, vibrations from vehicle, magnetic fields, sound levels, infrared, visible, and UV light, and Wi-Fi activity from nearby devices. And again, remember, that's an Alphabet company, a Google company. Well, Alphabet company. So just rough initial reaction, would you be okay with Google having, again, Alphabet having access to all of this information? I'm sure they're going to say, we're not going to use it for bad things, but that's a lot of information from everywhere around the real world.
Sure. No, it's funny because what this made me think of is how badly many people reacted with, you know, Google Glass, right? The idea of like, oh, well, what if you always have like a camera on you and you can walk into a bar or a private space or wherever and be recording. So I wonder the type of PR campaign that they'll have to mount to try and explain what exactly they're collecting, when and for, you know, what purposes. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. But you know, considering that there's other cities out there that you know, have things like surveillance. I think London is one of the most like heavily surveilled, you know, cities in the world. You know, on the upside, something that's made me think of is I remember talking to a guy who's the chief scientist for the city of Boston a couple years ago, and he does a lot with data and trying to find these, you know, connections to improve kind of life in the city. So I remember him telling me, for example, that using data, they'd been able to figure out that when a street light goes out, there is a specific window of time before crime in the area spikes. So knowing that, if they could get the problem fixed ahead of time, they were able to head off some problems. So I think this will be sticky, but it could, you know, potentially be put to good use.
Yeah, that's exactly where I went as well, where my mind went. If Google can figure out the spread of the flu and diseases through data sets of search, imagine what they could figure out with this kind of real world data. They're excellent at recognizing patterns and algorithmically understanding things in general. So with these kinds of things, sure, it is worrisome, and I think that should be looked at properly. But also, it seems to me that there could be a wealth of information that we just don't have now because we don't have that kind of data, so we can't analyze it properly. So, yeah, I think the good and bad aspects of it. BlackBerry has announced that it is not going to keep manufacturing its Classic smartphone. Classic is the name of the model. It was launched 18 months ago only. The company did say, however, that they're going to keep releasing updated versions of their BlackBerry 10 OS. So the next one is going to arrive next month. It's hard for BlackBerry. I don't want to pile on. But certainly, yes, they're going to keep releasing the OS, but it's really funny because that classic model is the one with the keyboard. And I keep remembering all of those people that are saying they couldn't live without a keyboard. Now, of course, with this model specifically, you would have to give up your quote-unquote modern OS. Maybe I'm going to anger people saying that that BlackBerry 10 isn't modern, but certainly when you look at the phone, the screen is smaller, and it doesn't look as fancy as an Android or an iOS phone. But still, that is the one that people were asking for. Basically, the keyboard. I want the keyboard, and it's already going away. I think it's really hard for people to understand how much to pay attention to the loudest voices, and sometimes, I mean, in this case, I think the loudest voices were saying they wanted a keyboard, when really, I don't think it was the case. Do you use a keyboard, a smartphone keyboard? Would you want a keyboard, physical keyboard on your smartphone?
Oh, goodness. Well, the first smartphone that I had was a BlackBerry, and it felt very, very official for the time that I had it. And I guess, functioned fine. But I think for me the difference between BlackBerry and moving to something that functioned like an iPhone was it took over my life, right? So I was a little bit better able to put the BlackBerry away.
As were many people, I'm sure. But hey, you know what? Good news, it just was discontinued, so if you really want that BlackBerry with a keyboard, you probably can still find it in a couple of stores. So go ahead, rush and get one. Last news item of the day is the humming bad malware that is present on 10 million Android devices, according to the security software maker Check Point. And the interesting aspect of this, it's obviously a malware that uses the advertising revenue and gathers information. The interesting aspect of this is that the malware is apparently developed and managed by a team at a quote-unquote legitimate advertising and analytics agency called YingMob. So usually we have malware being created by just hackers most of the time, Black Hat and criminal organizations. In this case, it seems that there's a real front, a legitimate front of a company that is also just in the back room doing malware and using the front to, it's not clear how exactly, but distribute and take advantage of the malware. 10 million devices. I'm guessing they're using unpatched vulnerabilities on older versions of Androids. That's usually the way these things go. But yeah, YingMob is, according to Check Point, to the secure software maker Check Point, is up to no good, apparently. So beware. And that is a look at the headlines. All right, on to our discussion story and VR headsets. So you have tried all of them on. You have experience even with the PlayStation VR. So hopefully you're going to be able to compare and contrast some aspects of all of those that we haven't discussed as much in the past. And the first question I would ask is, I think, a pretty obvious one, but even me following VR as closely as I do, I don't really know what the answer is, and that's the question of screen quality. Which one has the best screen quality out of, just a caveat, I think we're going to talk mostly about the Oculus Rift, the HTC Vive, and the PlayStation VR. The Samsung Gear could be another, Samsung, I can't remember the name now. Is it Gear? The headset? Yes.
The Samsung Gear VR?
Yes, Gear VR. Thank you. I got confused with the watch for a second. I think it's a different experience, so we can bring it up when it's relevant. But so yeah, screen quality. Which one would you recommend?
Sure. So, I think with the Vive and the Oculus Rift, they're both kind of in the 1200 by 1080, range, and PlayStation VR is a little bit beneath that. It's like 1080 by 960. So the nice thing is that we're kind of at a point where you don't have to deal with this like massive screen door effect. So, and that being, in earlier models, if you look at, for example, earlier developer kits from Oculus, you'd put it on, you'd kind of see almost like a grid-like kind of imposed over the screen, as if you're looking through a screen door, you might say. So the nice thing is, like, we've kind of moved past that. The interesting thing
Can you still see between the pixels, but it's acceptable, or do you not even see it at all?
I mean, I think it's to a point where it's acceptable, because I think one of the kickers with the Rift and the Vive and all that is you can get so involved and so kind of engrossed in what you're doing that it slides further down the list of what you're paying attention to. So
okay.
I think it'll get better in the future, but I think one of the major markers was really kind of moving past that sort of obtrusive screen door effect.
So HTC Vive and Oculus Rift roughly on par is my understanding. The PlayStation VR, I think that's going to be a recurring theme for all of the points we're going to talk about, but PlayStation VR is less expensive and often thought of as a lower quality model. The feedback I've heard from people who have tried it is that, yes, it is more noticeable, but it's surprisingly, it slides away as well in a surprising way. Is that your assessment as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think early on, what people thought as far as the high end of the virtual reality market was you have these three big players. You've got the HTC Vive, you've got the Oculus Rift, and you've got the PlayStation VR. And I think that PlayStation VR is something a little bit more unto itself, because in certain respects it's more accessible, it's a little bit cheaper, and yeah, maybe it's not quite as good, but I think it's good enough for a lot of people who, maybe don't want to commit to spending as much money as it might take to completely dive in cold and get a Rift Plus compatible computer or a Vive Plus compatible computer. And I think that's going to be an issue for a lot of people. I mean, the PlayStation 4 install base is pretty respectable. I think it was something like 36 million units out there, and that'll be an easier step to take if people are thinking like, well, I just have to spend maybe $400 or so to try this out with the console that I already have, versus here's my money, So.
All right. So comfortable to wear. Which one is the most comfortable? Which one would you recommend in that way?
So that's one area where the PlayStation VR, I think, has the other two beat. It's lighter. I think it's got a few more intuitive adjustments. You can kind of expand the faceplate out a little bit. It doesn't pull on your face to such a degree, so which is always welcome.
Does that play into the moving of the faceplate? Does that play into whether or not you're wearing glasses? Can you use all of them with your glasses?
Yeah, that's the nice thing. I think that was, a concern early on. A lot of people were asking, like, okay, so these, the form factor is basically I have to strap this giant, brick onto my face. Can I wear my glasses with that? Because this is just not going to go well otherwise. And I think that all of them have taken steps to make sure that their designs allow for that. So yeah, I've used them with and without at various points. So.
All right, excellent. So glasses okay with all of them. Comfortable-wise, the PSVR has a slight edge. Apparently, the other two, I'm guessing, are on par, roughly. Cable management, that might be kind of silly a question to ask, but you're actually, unless you're using something like the Gear VR or a thing that works with your smartphone, you're still connected to the computer or the console. Cable has to become an issue at some point.
Yeah, it really does. And I think that, maybe in the future there will be some better solution, but for now you have multiple cables basically going out from the back of your head to the computer or wherever.
So is there one that has some kind of contraption that makes this better? I don't know, some pole that comes out from the thing that makes it easier to manage, or are they all?
No, you're just kind of stuck with it. I think with the Vive, for example, we had it in our office for a little while, and the thing that we used to do mostly is like you kind of had a buddy who was tending to the cord and trying to make sure you didn't fall over or trip or anything like that. The funny thing is that
all right. Sorry, just a second.
Yeah.
We're saying this jokingly, but was that actually needed for them? Like, if you didn't have your sparring buddy, would you trip over the cable?
Well, I think that the danger is there are these moments sometimes when you can get so engrossed that you can lose your footing a little bit, and it also depends. I remember a colleague of mine brought in his 8-year-old son, and that was a real precarious situation. There were times when he would just kind of take off running toward the chaperone, which is like the digital barrier, to the edge of the PlayStation or PlaySpace, and you'd say, "Oh, buddy," It definitely helps to have someone trying to get the cables away from you, and especially in experiences that are more active. So. Yeah.
Right. So that actually ties into my next question, which is the unique features. Now, we know that the Oculus Rift is going to get the touch controllers, and it's going to make it easier for room scale VR experiences. That's the case for the PlayStation VR as well if you have the Move controllers, and the HTC Vive already has those totems that allow you for a really good room scale experience. Actually, the Oculus Rift also has a camera or a sensor that allows you to move around, but it's definitely more developed for the HTC Vive. So generally, unique features, my sense is that the HTC Vive really enables that room scale VR. Is that the only feature that is unique to any of them?
Well, I mean, I think that in that regard, the Vive came out of the gate really strong. One area where Oculus, I think, has the others beat is in audio. It has built-in headphones on the sides, and they're good.
Oh, that's not the case for the HTC Vive?
No, actually, yeah. You need, your earbuds, your headphones, or whatever else you're using. I have a pair of it's kind of like heavy-duty Audio Technica headphones that we were using, and that was kind of an interesting experience to have this very kind of bulky headset and then these like very bulky headphones. Your face is just completely tangled up in tech.
Where do you plug them in, the headphones? Is there a port on the VR headset, or do you have to plug them all the way back to the computer?
I'm trying to remember. For the Vive, I think there's a spot kind of down the cable a little bit where you can plug it in. So it's almost like halfway down your back-ish.
Well, that seems intuitive. All right. Okay. Any other specific features that come to mind for any of them?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, I mean, the PSVR I think stands in a little bit, in between of being like a seated experience versus full room. The Vive, just the fact that you can walk around something like a 16 by 16 space is tremendous. Once you actually get to do that and spend time doing that, you realize you don't really want to sit down. Yeah, Oculus is the leg up on audio, and yeah, those are the ones that come to mind. I'm sure that other people have thoughts on maybe yeah, which ones are don't fog up as quickly or those kinds of things. There's always something.
Okay, so what about the future? Is there, as I mentioned, the touch controllers are going to be available Q3 for the Oculus Rift, but beyond that, is there anything you know about the future of those headsets that would tell you this one might be better to have possibly, in the next 3, 6, 9 months?
Yeah, I think it kind of depends. Something that's been interesting to me about the Vive are sort of the potential uses in business and other kind of functions beyond gaming. Things like design, healthcare. I did a story for Tech Republic a little while ago that was about an architecture firm in Indiana that was kind of playing around with using some 3D renderings with of buildings that they were working on with a Samsung Gear VR. But the thing that they really wanted to do was design for the Vive and be able to have clients kind of put it on and be able to walk around the space that they were designing. So I think that one of the most auspicious factors there, whatever, is that room scale. Because when people start imagining that, they just kind of take off and they'll figure out ways to use it.
Yeah, so I'm guessing, on paper, all of them are supposed to be capable of doing that, but I think definitely the HTC Vive seems to has taken a few steps forward and is a little bit earlier in that kind of VR. So yeah, that might benefit it in the long run. All right, final point. Overall opinion, does any of them stand out? If there is one that you would recommend, if someone says, I don't want to buy 3 VR headsets, but I'm really interested, which one should I get? Is there a right answer?
Oh gosh, I don't think that there's one right answer. I think the money for a lot of people is going to have to do with it. So maybe if you already have a PlayStation 4 and you're just kind of wanting to get your feet wet and you've got those $350, $400, do that. Try that. See if you like it. If you've just got dough and you're ready to kind of hop all in, go for the Vive.
The Vive. Okay, so
yeah.
so the budget choice would be the PlayStation VR, but for the rich man's choice, you would recommend the Vive rather than the Oculus.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Excellent. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the pick of the day, which comes to us from Benjamin. He wrote, for covering your camera, Scotch tape, the frosted variety, and his reasoning is sound. Some newer laptops have used the camera to judge the screen brightness. I think what he means is the room's brightness and adjust the screen brightness. So you want to be able to gauge the light in the room and protect privacy. So that frosted variety of Scotch tape is probably the cheapest and likely the most efficient thing you can get. That was in reference to the Mark Zuckerberg using Scotch tape on his camera. So he might have some money, but he also knows what to use at a budget. Thank you, Benjamin. And the message of the day comes from, we have a couple. Josh Kaywood sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. He says that he's been catching up on last week's episode, and he was listening to Scott, who talked about his dentist and how VR would immediately help him view Scott's virtual tooth. But Josh has kind of a hard time imagining exactly how it would work. Scott was very enthusiastic about the idea of, rendering virtual teeth in VR for some reason. I think it was just, the possibility that sprung to his mind. But the point that Josh is making is that with a mouse, you can just move the tooth around. If you have a VR headset, even if you have the controllers, be them the Vive controllers or whatever they are, yes, you can turn the thing around, but either you're going to have your hands in the air for a long time, and that's going to get tiresome, or you're going to move around your dental office and move around the tooth. It might not make the most sense. So maybe I'm going to ask you, our VR expert, again. Just that question actually struck me. When you're using the controllers, don't you get tired with your arms up after 20 minutes?
I don't ever remember that happening in the time that we got the Vive. I mean, I'm sure maybe if you were doing a repeated action and your arms were always elevated, that might be the case. But I think that a lot of the games and experiences that we tried, you had some variety in there. So, I don't think that I'm trying to think of a case where I had like my arms aloft for an extended period of time. But if it happens, I'm sure that's a possibility.
Yeah, well, if you don't remember it happening, I'm guessing that it's not a huge issue, which is a good thing. But yeah, maybe the dental uses are not the best specific uses for VR, but that was an interesting point. Thank you, Josh. And Paul also emailed us about last Friday's discussion. Obviously, a lot of people talked about that self-driving car incident, and he mentions, he makes a very good point. He says, you guys mentioned briefly that there was one fatality in however many miles, and then you mentioned the rate of fatality in human-driven motor vehicles, but he says, I would advise caution when comparing the two figures. The data set for automated vehicles is extremely limited. You basically have one data point. The other data set is very well developed over several years with thousands of data points. Basically, what he's saying is we really don't know. It's just one fatality. It's too small a data set, and it's absolutely right. It reminded me of the you remember the Concorde plane incident when it crashed? Before that crash, the Concorde was the safest plane in the industry because it had never crashed, and then it crashed once, and it was all of a sudden the least safe plane in the industry because out of the number of flights it did, it wasn't so many, and it had a higher percentage of failure. So yeah, I think it's a very good point when when they were comparing the two rates. Clearly, it's not a large enough data set at this point for it to be relevant in the case of the automated vehicles. So we need more data. And I believe that is going to be it for this show. Thank you so much, Erin, for being with us and lending us your VR expertise. Where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, so these days I'm over at CNET, and otherwise I'm on Twitter at Erin Carson. And yeah, those are the main spots.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you as well to all the many patrons that help keep this show alive. As you know, there is no advertisement on this show. The reason we exist and we can do it every day is thanks to you. You are the reason. So if you wish to support the show, please go take a look at dailytechnewsshow.com/support. You can become a patron on Patreon, but there are also a bunch of other different ways to help us, including maybe telling a friend about the show. Maybe you can think of that one person that would benefit from having a daily look at the tech news, and they just don't know that the show exists. So do them a favor and tell them about us. Thank you very much for supporting us. Also, remember that you can take the survey to let us know what you think about the show. Maybe not this specific episode, I might not have done a great job, but the show in general. You can go to bit.ly/2016 DTNS. As always, our email address is feedback@Daily Tech News Show. You can call us on 51259-DAILY. That's 512-593-2459. I bungled that. And you can catch the show live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. You can visit us on the website, dailytechnewsshow.com, and tomorrow's guest is going to be Scott Johnson. And now I'm going to run the end credit, which I should have done before. No, that was the beginning one. Let's do this, and instead do that.
This podcast is part of the Frogpants Studios Network. For more information about this and other shows, visit frogpants.com. Audio program so good, it's like you're there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
All right, and that's a show. Hopefully it did record. Thank you very much, Erin.
Yes,
yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being part. Unfortunately, Chris was not able to make it. Let me see. I have audio. Do I have audio here? Do I have audio? Yeah, I have audio here, just in case.
Yeah, I have audio as well. Victory. Thank you, chat room, for the kind words. And yeah, we actually managed to record even, so we can celebrate.
Sure. Oh, Erin, if you have to go, please feel free to sign off.
We're gonna mess around for a while here.
Okay.
So.
Sounds good.
But you can. Cool. Thank you again.
Yeah. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Having me and all that. I've got to see if I can run to the store. I think it's about to start raining in a few, so.
All right. Thanks so much for being on.
Patrick, nice to meet you.
You too. It was great. Thank you very much. You made everything easy. So.
I'm glad. See you guys.
See you next time.
Bye.
Take care.
See. Showbot titles while you're figuring that out.
All right.
You see, top is China says pictures, or it's not true. Which, may or may not work. Business up front, malware in the back. I like that one.
Wait. I have to look at them
as well.
Yes, because I don't. It's too stressful.
Okay.
All right. Show titles.
Top is China says pictures, or it's not true. I like the second one. Business up front, malware in the back. I'm not sure if you know what that alludes to.
Oh. No, actually.
That's the mullet, the hairstyle of the mullet, where you have it's all business up front and a party in the back. That's what they refer. It's okay. That's a little bit of American or maybe North American pop culture. Although I think mullets exist in most countries, especially in ones that play a lot of.
They do. Yes, they do. Okay.
Let's see which reality is more.
Show without merit is really clever, but I think.
But but it doesn't really say anything about what the episode is about. And also, it's
now 50% less screen door.
Face it, you want tech on your face. Another.
Which reality is more virtual? China wants to believe. Okay.
What about Vive la Vive?
That's kind of nice. Vive la Vive, or Vive le Vive, it should be.
Well, you can take that and spell it the correct way. Is it L-E? Would just be L-E?
L-E, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Let me go to the YouTube page.
Okay, I think I have to levelate a little bit better.
Yep. You have to levelate. and then export it out as an MP3.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna need your help for some of the.
Well, as soon as you
metadata
get it
and
up,
stuff.
if you can, once you do that and you can get it up to SoundCloud, I do the rest.
Oh, do you just put the MP3 without metadata or anything?
Oh no, you just do the metadata and
Okay.
the name. So the show name would be. So we're going with Le Vive, right?
Yeah, I think so. Do you guys like it?
I like it.
Okay.
I likes it. I likes it so much. It hurts. Yeah, that sounded kind of weird, didn't it?
Just a second. I'm just.
Let's call it Vive Le Vive.
Just gonna do it by hand here. I think this is not going to be a very interesting part of the video. Maybe.
Yeah, so why don't we just
stop
stop the stream? Oh, stop AGR first, and then stop the stream.
Stop AGR first. Thank you, AGR. We love you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
So I should click. Wait. Where do I click? Off air. Yes.
Yeah, at the top clock, it'll bring you to that page, and then you click back on return to control panel. And there should be nothing streaming. It should just be from the
live off air. There we go.
Yeah. And
now we're going to stop the video. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here, chat room. Bye.